I would like to acknowledge our donors, the donors who have supported my work throughout my master's project from Mac3 Impact Philanthropies, who also happened to attend my talk today, Shark Conservation Fund, Ocean Blue Tree, and also Save the Blue. And my practitioner partner is Conservation International. So the work that I do is focusing specifically on addressing the conservations of endangered treasure sharks and also the conflicts between the livelihoods for the people who actually depending on these species as livelihoods and economic sources. So I started my career since 2014, ever since I started my internship work in shark and race issues. And as a matter of fact, that Indonesia is the biggest shark fishing nation in the world, where our country have exported more than 100,000 tons of shark and race annually. And since the beginning of 2000, this number has been steadily increasing because of the increasing demands for the shark fin soup and also other traditional medicine. This has drove more than 30 to 40% of shark species threatened with extinctions. I think that it is a very important issue for Indonesia to start managing the shark and race management, particularly because we have seen many of shark species actually started to disappear from our waters. The challenge for shark conservation is undoubtedly very complex. So throughout my master's journey, and also before I start my master's, even I started to dig more information and ways for how we can address these huge issues nationally in order to address the shark and race conservation and management. The first one is that I see the shark and race in general are valuable fisheries for many coastal populations, from big, medium, and small scale fisheries in Indonesia. It is also a very lucrative, where it's generally easy for people to catch sharks, sell the meat, and also sell the fins, because there's always demand coming from every layers of our society. And therefore, like, because of its lucrative and its contributions toward Indonesia's economic, sometimes when we want to transition the fisheries into something else, the cost for transitioning it is higher than the actual benefits. And therefore, it makes many of our stakeholders, local communities, business, and also government have a lack of political will to change. They decided to have ongoing shark fisheries because it gives them better livelihoods and also economic sources. The second one is that aside of sharks being one of the important economic sources, there's also a very minimum research going on, particularly for species specific, and also for still so many shark species in Indonesia. Major projects that have been going on since early 2000, ever since the issues of sharks and race management surge. It's still focusing on the fisheries captures of the species. So it's mainly on counting the dead sharks around the fishing ports in Indonesia to understand the population's decline. But the efforts on preventing the mortality of the shark species in Indonesia is still poorly understood, because, like, for example, take treasures or even other oceanic species. They are generally a large migratory animals that, a simple conservation measures will not work to address these issues. And therefore, it's undermined the conservation activities and also efforts to avoid the ongoing population's decline. And lastly, I think there's still so many challenges to shark and race conservation. And the last one that I have identified is that Indonesia is one of the biggest archipelagic country in the world, and shark fisheries issues exist almost throughout the archipelago. And it's not about whether or not Indonesia has already established management or policies. The policies and managements are already there, but sometimes because of the high cost for effort in monitoring and enforcement, and long bureaucratic process that makes discourage so many stakeholders to actually pursue a real and tangible results of the policies and management itself. And therefore, it resulted in low compliances and ongoing populations decline all across the country. And I see that the shark fisheries is a very lucrative, and also there's so many different types of communities that have depended on them, from indigenous and small-scale fishermen, and also big big industrial fisheries that catch them as bycatch and also targeted fisheries. And this is a very overwhelming when to think about it, like from which angle that we have to tackle and solve this kind of wicked issues. And there's actually coming to the reason why I choose treasure shark as one of the species that I start to focus on. So the species that I'm trying to conserve or to improve its management aspects is the pelagic treasure sharks. Some of you, if you're divers and if you have encountered pelagic treasure sharks in the wild, you're very lucky, because this species is very beautiful and also very elusive, but also in the high danger of extinctions. So treasure shark just recently being categorized as endangered from the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. So I choose this species because it potentially could be a model where oceanic species management always find a barrier where, from which angle they have to tackle on the conservation measures itself. So the pelagic treasure sharks, in effect, is that threatened, their populations has been dwindling because of the victim of bycatch. So 50% of the species sometimes contributed as the compositions in bycatch in large industrial tuna. So if you imagine a large fishing boat of tuna, they have, for example, 100 ton of capacity, and 50% of them are actually pelagic treasure sharks. And most of the industrial tuna are actually operating in the high seas, where the treasure sharks usually found aggregate around that area. However, aside of the large industrial tuna, the pelagic treasure sharks is also targeted in many small coastal populations. While in the industrial side, Indonesia's government has been focusing their efforts and also management measures to these sectors, but for small-scale fishermen who also make up to the majority of fisheries actors in Indonesia keep being addressed. So many small-scale fishermen catching the sharks, but still getting unrecorded, and therefore the population's decline continue. But we still don't know like how is the species could go against the population's decline and also the extractions. And the population's decline right now already more than 80%. It still keep on going. And despite all of these facts and also problems, shark species, this treasure shark is still understudied in terms of science and also in the policy. So far, Indonesia's government only have national policy to address the fisheries management of treasure sharks, but it's still largely focused on the industrial management of the site. So the question is that, like, I know that my capacity will not be able to tackle down on the industrial fisheries side because it's too large to achieve for now. The thing that I would like to address is that how can we conserve treasure sharks or other endangered sharks in communities who depend on them, because the small-scale fisheries is one of the issues that kept being unaddressed, and also being overlooked most of the times. I found like several potential solutions that I have been oversimplified, but I hope you can bear with me. The first one is that we should prohibit fishing for sharks completely. That's not the solutions that I was seeking for, because I realized that it will create unintended consequences, the economic problems for the small-scale fisheries, and also other systemic issues that will come up when we do the blanket ban on the fisheries. The second one is sustainable shark fisheries. This has been a bit of discussions for many large Indonesian NGOs and also Indonesian government to actually implement a sustainable shark fisheries. But me personally do not believe this kind of effort will work, because generally right now shark populations has been in trouble enough, and they have a very low fecundity that if we continue fishing them, we don't really know like when the populations will collapse and will completely disappear from our oceans. And also it's really hard to conduct the monitoring and also ensure that if we the maximum sustainable yield, and also ensure that if we exploit them, it will be able to recover in the near future. And the third solutions that I think would be feasible is that to actually transition from direct exploitations of the shark fisheries to shark tourism, that we have been seeing so many examples around the world that have shifted the idea and also the political interest of people to start care and protecting the shark fisheries. So this is the first solution they will talk later throughout my Capstone project and my work in Alor. And the second one is that aside of transitioning the use of the resources and also transitioning to other types of alternative fisheries. So and therefore, I think the first option, prohibiting fishing for shark, would be feasible when we have already providing alternative livelihood solutions for the communities who previously depended on the populations. So going on the economic potential for treasure sharks, especially for tourism, this is always one of the examples that I bring about to our stakeholders and also to our partners, that the treasure shark tourism exists in the world. The only treasure shark tourism model is in the Philippines, in Malapascua, where a critical habitat has been observed, and also the seasonality of occurrence have been observed. Therefore, it enables the tourism-specific activities for treasure sharks, which has generated 15 million US dollars annually. And these kind of promising economic sources from the from sustainable use of shark resources has inspired many of the local conservation activities, and also inspired the drive of local communities to conserve the treasure shark populations in the area. When it's close to home, we also have another examples of manta, which was protected nationally under the national regulations of Indonesian ministry, and it's throughout the country, manta fishing is prohibited. This kind of national drive from the Indonesian government actually coming out from a very local level. There are two successful examples in Raja Ampat and Komodo, where two of the districts actually initiated the local protections of manta in their marine protected areas. And this local success, which has also generated economic tourism in the local communities, has inspired and the extensive research and also engagement to the local government and local communities have inspired the bottom-up policy changes for the local for the national protections of the species. And the question is that, can we do the same for treasure sharks in Indonesia? And this is somehow the pathway that I was choosing in order to make a treasure shark conservation discussions in Indonesia, because previously the species is extremely understudied and not that many people actually talk about them because it's just complicated to manage them. And it goes to the reason why my project focuses in Alor. So if you see Indonesian map here, the red is the East Nusa Tenggara provinces, where the Alor district is located. So the East Nusa Tenggara province represent for more than 27% of the total marine protected area in Indonesia. And if we zoom in Alor a little bit, we've identified 20 treasure shark fishermen who have been hunting this species for more than 50 years, but previously no one knows about it. And and the fact is that in a year, these 20 shark fishermen landed more than 300 sharks annually, while majority of them are pregnant females. And if these fisheries pressures continues, I believe that it will impact specifically and significantly to the populations, because it hinders the ability of the species to actually repopulate for them in the future. And the 20 shark fishermen seem small, and I think that we believe that it is the considerable amount of the shark fishermen if we can address, because this is the only threats surrounding the local conservation. If we can address these 20 shark fishermen to stop the shark fisheries, it will immediately lift the local pressures and let the treasure shark species safe in around the marine protected area. And however, that if I want to pursue this kind of solutions pathway, I have several questions that I have in mind. The first one, if you want to develop the treasure shark tourism, is it feasible? Are the sharks will be around for a longer term, or when we see them, they're only gonna pass around the area for once or twice? So this is also one of the argument that because for treasure shark, it's an oceanic species, and we don't really know whether or not they have residency behavior. And the second one, if we were about to establish a tourism for treasure shark? Is the infrastructure ready? Are there dive centers? Are there enough roads to travel? Is the place is remote enough? Are there people actually start doing it and have the interest? And also, is there any political interest coming from the local government or even the local communities themselves, and other stakeholders that might be impacted by this kind of transition in the future? And lastly is that coming in from the classic issues of the shark tourism in Indonesia is that many of the resorts and also dive centers are owned by um, foreign people, and it's very common that the shark fishermen did not uh, be directly involved in the process of the tourism itself, and therefore they did not perceive the economic profit from the tourism itself. And these questions around that I have is actually the reasons of why we design this kind of solutions pathway. And therefore, like, in order to address and help to answer at least a little bit of the questions that I have, the first one is that we are targeting the informations on the sharks, whether or not the sharks are there, whether or not there is a seasonality, whether or not is it feasible for the underwater observation for treasure sharks in the area. The second one is that targeted informations on dependent communities. So we did engagements with the shark fishermen, with the stakeholder, with the government, and also with the tourism practitioners that are operating around the area to see if they wanted to pursue the treasure shark tourism in Alor district. And the last one is that use all of these informations that we generate from the research to inform the local policy decisions, and supplementing the local government with the information that they need if they want to supply the tourism in the future. And in the Capstone approach that I did, the first one is that the movement studies. So it's based on the combinations of satellite and acoustic tagging within the Alor Marine Protected Area. Basically, is to find where the sharks move, are the sharks stay, when they are staying, and how long, and stuff like that, to actually see which areas are most critical for protections and also for potential tourism areas in the future. The second one is that I work with the local dive centers and resorts, basically to interview with them with open-ended questions, and then find if they wanted to pursue the treasure tourism, would they be wanted to involve the shark fishermen in the process. And the last one is that working with stakeholders to explore other economic alternatives that could reduce the dependency of the shark fishing, and assisting them in the process of changing their behavior. And this is the process, and a little bit of success that we did is that we successfully tagged 15 treasure sharks with combinations of satellite and internal acoustics. This is notably the first ever research conducted in Indonesia for treasure sharks using satellite and also internal acoustics, thanks for our supporters and donors. And also the way we were able to tag that, because treasure shark is really hard to find, we are working actually with the local fisherman in here, who is Sahlul. He's the local champion of treasure shark conservations, where we asked him to actually catch shark for us, and then we tag them and release them. And from the research throughout September last year until March, we have successfully reached 100% shark survivals after the internal surgery and also after the tagging process overall. So let's go to defining highlights of what we have found from our research and also from the engagement of our project. The first one is that the satellite tag. So from 15, we were actually still in the process of analyzing the data, but here I give a little bit of snapshots of where the sharks are going. So the mini-path tags is one of the tools that we use to find and track the behavior of movement of many oceanic species. Like it has previously been used to manta rays, whale sharks, hammerhead, and also for treasure sharks here in Indonesia. So these data, that we use is actually based from the light level geolocations. It's kind of like a prediction, so it's not a real geolocations information. However, it is one of the approach that has been reliable enough to find where the general movement of the species around the water. So for example, here you can see that actually the Alor Island is here, so it's a very small areas here. The sharks actually going outside to the area and then go south towards the Indian Oceans. So this is kind of like the high seas where there is no fisheries management. like not specifically managed by the Indonesian waters, but managed by the regional organizations, and also they go here within Indonesia's fisheries areas. And the second one is that they go more toward the east. Is it very far to Banda Sea, and also go back to the south. And the third one is that they're also going to the north and to the south. But there, from the three of them, there's a tendency that the sharks actually showing the directions of moving towards the Solor Alor Strait. So the Solor Alor Strait, which is here, is one of the most important migratory corridor for many endangered and also a charismatic marine megafauna, from whales, whale sharks, manta rays, hammerhead sharks, including treasure sharks, mola, and all the others. But also here, if you say that the hotspot seems to be around the area here, which is the Safu Sea, where is one of the most productive fishing areas for many people in the Eastern Nusa Tenggara region here in the province. And the data from the tag tell us that there is actually the tendency of movement between these highly threatened areas of fisheries, which urge the idea that we have to put more effort on management on this side. And also because of the sharks are highly migratory and sometimes be found in the high seas, the area here is managed by the Indian Ocean Tuna Commissions, where the management objectives has been set, and Indonesian government actually responsible to manage the overall bycatch and also targeted fisheries on the high seas. But if we zoom in from the tag data that we have, actually the sharks are there. So the sharks that we tagged, 15 of them, 7 sharks actually showing the indications of they actually coming back throughout the area. So from October here, you can see that we found 4 sites. So we have deployed 8 receivers here in Monoseli, and then here, Animon City, Harilolong, and also Reta and Cathedral. So from 8 sites that we put, we found 4 sites that have identified several peaks of the detections, but the two main sites are Animon City and also Harilolong. So if you see here from October until March, so all of the 4 sites were visited by at least 3 or 4 sharks, which means that it could be a potential critical habitat for them. And we have collected 476 detections throughout 6 months, or a total of 84 days of total days of visitation. So the sharks are actually not going that far, perhaps, but and they're showing a tendency to actually coming back in the area and perhaps stay. And however, if we have identified these sites as potential critical habitats, if you see here the little blue dots in here, and there's a bay of the sharks where the pregnant sharks were mostly found. The 2 sites actually located only 2 kilometers from the main fishing areas for the shark fishermen, and it adds the urgency that if we do not protect these 2 critical habitats, if the sharks are resident in the area or have tendency to go back, they may have the high risk of getting caught by the shark fishermen if the fishing is not stopped. And actually, from the 15 sharks, 2 of them already recaptured by the shark fishermen. One of them actually the ones that female, not pregnant, thankfully. And that one already, the one was actually the one that gave the most detections here in Animon City and also in Harilolong. So it's really unfortunate, but it gives us lots of follow-up questions like the difference of behavior from the individuals, and there's an opportunity to actually protect the site for future to prohibit future mortality in the area. And then we also detected some what we call it as the shark fishes. So from, if you see here the Animon City and also and also Harilolong, they are the 2 most utilized areas for the sharks. The first one is in Harilolong. We identified there's a time shift between the use of the sites. In Harilolong, the sharks tend to use or visit during the night, and mostly showing the highest detections during sunset until midnight. So from 6 to 11 p.m. While for Animon City, the sites that are actually located south to it, it's active mostly during the day, so from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. So it's a very interesting result that and also sharks showed multiple visits for as long as an hour. The sharks can stay there for almost for more than an hour, and we still don't know like what they're doing there. But having these informations is very important because it's showing that the sharks actually there during the day, and there are two sites that we can if the fisheries stop and then we protect them locally, we can potentially start observing more treasure shark visiting the area in the future. And the last approach that we did, so from the two first results were from the satellites and also the acoustic, we see that there are some potentials for it, but what the dive centers think and also what other stakeholders think. So can we use tourism as a tool for shark conservation? So the dive centers and also tourists say that it's actually still hard for them to observe treasure sharks directly in the wild. In the past, they said that they could see as many as 15 sharks in one dive, but because of the shark fisheries is still happening, it affecting the population's decline, and it makes it harder to actually find the sharks in the wild. And also there is still lack of data about the seasonality of, or like what time the sharks there, and then which sites is have the most peak. So we have addressed this one issues throughout the research at last. And the second one, because of the COVID-19, we have all known that tourism has not yet operating. So if we want to propose tourism to the shark fishermen, is it not possible and also not an immediate solutions to stop the dependency of them for the shark fisheries? And the tourism fee has already been existed. The tourism has been going for several years now, but it's still not transparent. Many of the dive operators said that even if like they have they don't really know where the money will go because they keep seeing unaddressed environmental threats. For example, use bomb fishing or fishing for endangered sharks, and also fishing for big harpoon fisheries in around the no-take zone. And also political conflicts among the government members about who will benefit from tourism, because in the past, like, it was managed by the Department of Tourism in the district, and then it changed to the Department of Marine and Fisheries in the district, and it changed because of the policy change. The authority managed by the for the province now, and the tourism now managed by the Department of Marine and Fisheries in the province. And these kind of like changing of who have the authority makes it's very complicated and have huge political conflicts about the tourism activities. So if we want to address this, firstly is that we have to create a system where it works for all, and a clear and transparent mechanism for how to make sure that the tourism fees actually benefited the local communities, and also for the management of the marine protected area. And lastly, the questions that I asked is that, would you be willing to take the shark fishermen as your employee? And they said 100% of them said yes, but the issue is that there's only one fishing job opportunity for the shark fishermen, mainly become either boat captain or boat driver. So the shark fishermen may be interested in this, but it's not. But the tourism operators themselves only select because most of them are operating outside of the shark fishing villages. They most prioritize people that are actually living in around their resorts to give more economic benefits to local people around the area. So it's really minimum engagement and also minimum opportunities if we want to involve the shark fishermen in tourism. However, from the journey of my capstone work, and also I work with my team on the field, we have seen the huge stepping stone in the local treasure shark conservation. The same success that we have witnessed in Komodo and also in Raja Ampat is that the first one is that the local government of Alor have already committed to take the leadership initiative by establishing the first conservation regulations of treasure sharks. So these first local regulations will address the targeted treasure shark fisheries, and also simultaneously providing the shark fishermen the opportunity to diversify their livelihood. So they are protecting the rights of the fishermen if the shark fishing is about to be prohibited. And following up the discussions on the local regulations is that each of the government members committed to actually allocate the annual development budget to help make this true, to diversify the livelihoods of shark fishermen. So this is considered one of the huge success, because many of big NGOs generally achieve this success of allocating budget commitment from the local government in several years, while we achieve it in a relatively short time. And the third one is that before we come to the area, no one's actually recognized treasure sharks. No one's actually know that the treasure shark fisheries exist. Treasure shark exists in their area, and with our with the help of a lot of people in the local communities and also the local champions that we have selected, our projects have at least we have witnessed that there's a shift of perceptions between the local communities to see treasure shark as the future tourism asset that they can be proud of. Right now, dugong is the only thing that they keep talking about, but right now, treasure shark is already in part of the discussion. Lastly, is that our direct engagement and continuous relationship with the shark fishermen, we have identified that from the 20, we've engaged 12 shark fishermen to actually wanted to transition to other sustainable alternative. They already have the willingness within themselves that they wanted to stop shark fishing for as long as there is alternative fisheries to it. For example, tuna, red snapper, and land businesses. So throughout the overall experience of my capstone, I already identified not only the tourism opportunities, but also the other alternative that might be work at the local level. And in order to communicate the success that we have in the local level, we've also been produced 2 short documentary films in YouTube. So if you have time and you're interested to see, just type Treasure Shark Project Indonesia, and then we'll show 2 different film documentaries, which have reached thousands of people from the viewing and also from the words of mouth. And also we made it as a cover story in oceanographic magazines in the UK, where our story here been featured to telling the importance of protecting the rights of local communities and also the shark populations. And lastly is that I'm still awaiting the release of the TV documentary from Sky TV, a member of the BBC. So here is the process of we're filming it. It will be hopefully be released within this year. So be on the lookout looking for exciting treasure projects that we did. And a little bit time to brag. So throughout my master's as well, I've been giving presentations to various events and also being invited to several important meetings. The first one is that probably one of the the biggest achievement that I did throughout my master's is that being nominated for the Pew Marine Fellows for 2020 among the prominent scientists globally. So I did not get the award, but I think it's been a very great honor to be acknowledged and be recognized by the work that we did in local level in Alor, and I'm so humbled to be recognized by such opportunities. The second one is that I presented the preliminary results at the American Museum of Natural History at the Student Conference on Conservation Science, and also eventually awarded as the best speaker for the event. And the last one is the Ultramarine Ocean Excellence Summit, where it invites lots of investors and also other ocean change maker. I presented the work of Treasure Shark Indonesia among the other prominent global leaders in the world. And as Magalu said, the capstone has over, but there's some next steps and some other future pursuit and endeavors that I would like to pursue. The first one is that our organization has just established as a local nonprofit. So I would like to continue the opportunity to take leadership opportunity because we have identified the opportunity to transition the shark fishermen. We would like to make the shark fishermen embrace these new livelihoods or of the alternative fisheries. And the second one is that we have established the local regulations with the local government. We would like to magnify the success to drive bottom-up political changes in Indonesia. So last week, I just presented our results to the national government of Indonesia, along with other researchers and other local stakeholders in Bali. So the Indonesian government actually start developing a national regulation for treasure shark right now, but they're still on finding the best way and approach by filling the knowledge gaps that they have about the species. So it's a great first step to actually contribute to that large goal. And the third one is that advancing the knowledge, because it's still very minimum people actually working on treasure shark in Indonesia. And my research has been uncovered a little bit part of it. And if there is an opportunity, I would like to dig more on advance the knowledge on treasure shark ecology and fisheries through my PhD later, but not right now. If there is an opportunity, I would like to pursue that. And particularly, I would like to find like where the movement areas is overlap with the fisheries threat to determine best measures for especially in the high seas or even within the fisheries management area of Indonesia. And with that, I would like to acknowledge my professor, Don Kroll, who's professor of EEB, and also Dr. Mark Edmond, who also happened to be here from the CI Asia Pacific, who have always given me new energy after a bi-weekly Capstone check-in. So it's been a very rough year with the COVID and everything, but both of them have always been supportive and giving me lots of moral encouragement throughout my work. And also the other people who have been contributed to my work in the Capstone, especially my team here in the Treasure Shack project, who have helped me with this, and it really takes the whole ecosystem to make this work happen. I know it's a local wins, but I'm really optimistic to actually leverage the success to achieve a tangible outcomes for treasure shack conservation. So all these people have been helping me from sending the receivers in Santa Cruz, and then helping me holding the sharks on the boat, handing over the tools for the surgery, and just being there, giving me moral encouragement throughout my downtime and my pessimistic nature in doing this research.